And we are live. What's good, y'all? It's your man DL Saint. Apologies. Normally I am not late. 6 minutes late here. Sorry about that. Again, we're not doing any intros, outros. I won't be using sound effects on this live. We're just following up on the show from earlier, the incident at DCA, the crash. Again, cons- condolences goes out, man. Thoughts and prayers to all those affected, to the families who lost loved ones. From what I understand, that they were young. Of course, there were men, women, and children on board. I think there were some children coming back from like either a workout or tryouts from some national event team. I forget if it was, I don't know if it was swim or gymnastics or dance or something like that, but there was some kids who were really good returning home from that event. And the latest is all personnel on the aircraft, the RJ, and all their personnel on the helicopter are feared lost. No survivors. That's the latest. Um, yeah, this is terrible. This is terrible. But I wanted to follow up and just kind of give you guys my final analysis on what I believe happened here, and what I think the NTSB and the FAA are going to be looking at as far as how can we keep this from happening. We got Lady Navo in the building. What's good, sis? Appreciate you pulling up. Um, I appreciate you. Yeah, we got moderators out there. I appreciate you. I think we're doing good. YouTube doesn't like my content for whatever reason. I managed to get myself placed on the naughty boy list, so we know that this content gets um uh shadow banned. I mean, it is what it is. But we're gonna do what we do and just keep pushing forward. So I appreciate you, sis. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being there and taking care of business. So brother Mark is in the building, man. Appreciate you, bro. Again, we're not gonna do our normal sound effects and all that. Just because of, we want to keep it somber. This is, definitely a tragedy. But we want to talk about what's happening. So earlier today I did a video, a breakdown, and we were talking about the we were talking about radio transmissions and stuff like that. And VAS Aviation has some really good breakdowns on this. And were using one of their videos for our first episode here, and we're going to use a second video that they have for this follow-up. What we didn't get to hear in the first video was the transmissions that were made to the helicopter, Pat 25, the military helicopter. We couldn't hear the pilot responding to those radio calls. Where on this other video, we can hear the pilot responding to those radio calls. And I can give you guys my analysis on what I think happened and why. Um, Again, we're going to be waiting for the NTSB report, and that's going to come out when it comes out. It's probably going to be over a year, but there's going to be information that comes out before that. And the things that I'm going to be talking about, you're going to hear. We're also going to be responding to an episode of Breaking Points with Sagar and Crystal. They live in the area that this is close to their hearts. They fly to this airport, DCA, a lot. And Sagar made some comments, and I just kind of want to address those from my perspective as an air traffic controller. And who knows, maybe they will see this and it kind of answers his questions as to what's going to happen moving forward. So let's get into it. Let's pull up this video. Again, this is the video that has the radio calls that are being made to the helicopter, the military helicopter, the Black Hawk, and the pilot responding. We're going to watch this. I'm going to stop this video a lot. It's only 4 minutes, but I'm going to be stopping this video a lot because I want to point some things out to you guys as to what's going on. The biggest issue with air traffic control right now, in my humble opinion, is the lack of experience in senior controllers. The senior controllers are leaving. Either they're being forced out due to retirement, or they're retiring early. By early, I mean at age 50. They're retiring the first opportunity they get because they're working hard and they want to spend time with family. So there is a lack of experienced controllers at the top, right? So I just want to throw that out there. That's, in my opinion, probably the biggest issue with air traffic control right now. There's definitely a shortage of air traffic controllers, and the FAA is doing their best to get controllers into the agency and get them trained up. The problem is you can get them trained up, but it takes time to get that seasoning. As we all know, old people know. The thing about being old is you get all that experience. So you get all that wisdom. So let's check this out. And it's gonna be glitchy, guys. It's that time of day, and for whatever reason, man, I have to deal with these issues. But let's get into it. This is the breakdown. Talks about the mid-air collision between the RJ and the Hilo over the Potomac River, which includes the last communications from Pat 25 requesting visual separation from the jet.
79, contact Stone Park today.
Okay.
American 3130, for the final.
Well, American 3130.
Pat 25, traffic just off the Wilson Bridge to CRJ at 1,200 feet, start runway 33.
God has a traffic site request visual separation.
This separation crew. American 1630, tower runway 1 off board, traffic throughout.
Okay, so right there, this is pretty much the first call of Pat 25. Pat 25 is on this route, this established helicopter route, which is going to take him in very close proximity to runway 33 approach in. It's going to take him fairly close to the approach in of runway 101, which runway 1 is kind of like paralleling, but it cuts in a little bit on this route. Again, I've never worked this airport. I've never worked this airspace. I don't know the intricacies of what's going on there. I'm just looking at what's here. Pat 21 is roughly, I would say, maybe up to, let's say he's 2 miles northeast of the airport. Here's the airport here, like this funny looking triangle. Those are the 3 runways. You got runway 1, you got runway 33, and again, you have another third runway. There's probably like runway 4 or something like that, maybe 5 or something like that. So you have these 3 runways. We're going to be concerning ourselves with runway 1 and runway 33. Right. So what's good, man? Drill, good to see you. So on this first call, Pat 25 gets his call from the tower, and the tower immediately calls traffic. Right. We talked about this on this platform before. What is traffic? Traffic is an aircraft or terrain or some sort of obstruction that the air traffic controller believes that this helicopter is going to get in close proximity to. So he wants to get that information out there. In this case, it's a jet. It's a jet. So they make the traffic call on the very first transmission. That's good. Right? That's good that he's making the call. The problem is the distance. Right? The problem with this particular traffic call is how far apart the helicopter is from the jet at this time. What the controller is doing is getting ahead of the problem. He knows there's going to be a problem at some point. He needs to get the helicopter pilot to see this jet. He knows the helicopter pilot is going to ask to provide visual separation. Going to ask for visual separation, which is a separation thing. It's a form of separation, IFR separation. I'm not going to get you into the weeds on that, but basically the controller knows the pilot is going to ask for these things. He's like, well, let me get this out the way now. I got the pilot looking for the traffic. The pilot says he sees the traffic. The helicopter pilot says, yes, we see the traffic. The air traffic controller tells him visual is approved. That's the separation thing that he's relying on. And he tells him to pass behind the jet. And here's the problem with all that. The problem with all that is there is a sea of lights underneath this airplane. This airplane is out here on final for runway 1 right now. And we don't know what the helicopter pilot sees. We know there are multiple airplanes out there on final for this runway. It's nighttime. You'd be surprised what you can see at night and how far away you can see stuff at night. I'll give you a story. I was working at Van Nuys one night, a clear night in Southern California, San Fernando Valley. We were departing and landing to the north, which is not our normal configuration, but for this time of year, Santa Ana winds. You guys have heard about this because of all the fires, right? It's Santa Ana season. We're landing 3-4. Got a pilot out there, a very competent pilot, flying his own airplane like a Mooney or something like that. It's just a small, private, lightweight airplane. You know, this guy's very sharp. Most pilots, almost all pilots, are very meticulous. This guy was one of those guys who was known as being a little sassy. You know what I mean? He's a little sassy pants, like to talk a lot of stuff out there. If he thinks air traffic is making a mistake, he likes to point it out. So he'd be like, I got you, right? So I tell this guy, he's on the downwind leg. And I tell this guy, he's cleared to land runway 34 left, and I give the win. And the pilot's like, you know what? We're not going to land. We're going to follow this traffic out here. So this is his way of sticking it to me, right? There's someone out here, Tower, and you didn't do your job, Tower. You didn't sequence me. You didn't have me follow this guy. I'm going to follow that traffic, right? That's the guy trying to stick it to me, right? I'm like, okay, cool. So right away, I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm good at what I do back then. I'm really good at what I did, but I wasn't perfect. So I took a look around. I look outside. I look at my radar. I look down at my notes. Every air traffic controller should keep a pad. If you're in a tower, you can write down stuff. I'm like, I don't have any airplanes out there transitioning. I don't have any airplanes out there, you know, inbound to land. There's no fires. I don't have any fire aircraft out there. And I look out the window and I can see what this guy is looking at. Right? I can see what he's looking at. I'm like, oh, okay, he's trying to get me. Well, I got a trick for him. So I said, all right, you're going to follow that traffic out there. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to follow this traffic, Tower. And I said, well, how much gas do you have on board? He's like, why? Why are you on that? And because that traffic you're going to follow out there, that's Venus. You're going to need a lot of gas if you want to follow that, if you want to follow Venus. It was a clear night in Southern California, man. Venus was out there. This guy saw this light out there. It was a planet, and he thought that was traffic for him to follow. You see this light out there, right? So just to give you an idea of how difficult it can be at nighttime, everything is all lit up, right? You can see these airplanes out there no matter where they are. If you're at Van Nuys on a clear night, you can see airplanes departing off of LAX and climbing out, going east, parts east. You can see them. See airplanes out there, especially when they turn that big light towards you as they're climbing out, right? So it's crazy out there. Mr. Cole, what's good? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. Appreciate you. If anyone out there is watching at any point during this live, if you have any questions, hey, let me know. Got any questions? Just don't be shy. Put them in there in the chat there, and I'll do my best to answer it. So this helicopter, Pat 25, military helicopter, they're flying down this established route. This helicopter route gets dangerously close to two of your runways, two of your active runways, extremely close to runway 33. And you're calling traffic to this helicopter that's 5-6 miles away. I mean, it's pretty far, maybe 4 miles away. I can't really tell with this chart exactly how far away this aircraft is, but it's pretty far away. Let's say this aircraft is 4 miles away and the helicopter is 2 miles northeast, right? So that's 6 miles. The pilot says exactly what you want the pilot to say, and everyone seems to be happy. The air traffic controller got what he wanted. The pilot got what he wanted. But does the pilot actually see the traffic that's going to be a factor? That is the question. I was talking about experienced air traffic controllers. If there was an experienced air traffic, it was an old grumpy controller in the tower, the first thing that grumpy controller would say is, hold that helicopter. Hold that helicopter somewhere and make sure he sees the traffic. Then a young controller's like, well, he saw the traffic. Like, bro, you don't know what he saw. This helicopter is out here flying around. There's a regional jet, JAZ 789. This regional jet just took off from the airport and just flew right by him. Is he looking at this regional jet right here? There's a regional jet that just landed runway 33. Right? Is he looking at the regional jet that just landed runway 33? He's like, oh, that guy's not going to be a factor. I'm going to stay behind him. There's a Boeing 737 in position, ready to depart on runway 1. Right? So the helicopter's looking at that. Like, does he know the difference between a regional jet and a 737? So what exactly does this helicopter see? Now, again, the air traffic controller didn't use what we consider a traffic standard, a standard traffic call using clock positions. Okay, what does a standard traffic call sound like? Traffic, 12 o'clock, 8 miles, right? Direction of flight, north, south, east, or west. Altitude, level, climbing, descending, right? This is right out of the book. So if you're going to make this traffic call with this particular helicopter in this particular jet, traffic, 2 o'clock, 6 miles, northbound, 1,000, descending, regional jet. Report traffic in sight. That traffic call will eliminate any other question out here. All right, he said that traffic's to my 2 o'clock out there. That traffic is out there 6 miles away. He can't be talking about this regional jet that just passed me. He can't be talking about this regional jet that just landed on the runway. He can't be talking about that 737 that's on runway 1 waiting to go. Okay, there has to be another airplane out there. Oh, okay, I see a light. I see a light off in the distance. I see some lights out there. So the pilot's going to say, yeah, we got traffic in sight. As an older, and a lot of people might say, well, you just talking this stuff, man, because, you know, you Monday morning quarterbacking and this and that. Like, nah, bro, that's a technique. I need to be sure you see the traffic that I'm talking about, and you keying up too fast. Another thing you got to take into consideration is this is a military helicopter. You don't know who's flying this helicopter. You don't know where this crew came from. It's not like you're talking to local law enforcement or fire or local media or your lifeguard, your life flights. Those crews tend to fly the airspace all the time. They live there. It makes more sense when you make a traffic call saying, hey, you're following traffic that's over some bridge. Right? You're following traffic that's over some bridge. So the local boys and girls will know what you're talking about. But if you're just doing a training flight, you're coming in, you're in your military helicopter, you may not be familiar with these local reporting points. So you always want to use a standard traffic call. Sister T is in the building. What's good, love? I appreciate you. I really do. Thank you for your comments. I hope good to see you. Happy New Year. I haven't seen you since last year, girl. So thank you so much for coming through, man. I appreciate your support. And yes, please do like the video, guys. And Mr. Coach, like, she was a gate agent at Burbank. Oh, that's what's up, girl. I was right down the street. I was right down Sherman Way. I was at Van Nuys. I spent the majority of my career at Van Nuys. So you guys have some close calls in the last few years. Yes, there has been a spike in near misses in the National Airspace System. Still, our system is the best system on the world and in the world on the planet, and that's true. But there's been a spike in near misses. Why? There's a lot of people coming through training. There's a lot of people getting that experience. And you can attribute the near misses being misses and not hits because you got older controllers sitting back there watching, working. Hey, don't do this. Here's a technique. It takes years to pick this stuff up. Years. So I don't want you guys to be afraid to fly or anything like that. Flying is still the safest way to travel. You are way more likely to get into an accident driving to your local grocery store and getting hurt than you will having to deal with something like this. This just doesn't happen a lot in the United States of America. It just doesn't. So these are the things that I'm looking at. I'm looking at how quick this military pilot saw the traffic and called it out. Yeah, we got the traffic. We'll maintain visual separation. We'll stay behind that traffic. The air traffic controller wanted to hear that. There's a lot of anticipating. I need him to say that so I can do the next thing. This air traffic controller is in the process of putting an airplane on runway 1. He has an airplane that's about 4 miles away that's landing on runway 33. There's another airplane 3 miles in trail of that RJ. There's a Airbus behind the RJ that's going to be landing runway 1. He has to land runway 1. So this controller wants and needs to get this airplane on the runway, ready to go and launch him before that Airbus gets close. And the airplane that he's launching has to follow the regional jet that he just departed. Now, regional jets can fly pretty good. Below 10,000 feet, man, it can fly as good as anyone. So not really worried that much about this 737. This departure is going to catch up with this jet, but we don't know what their separation requirements are and stuff like that. Yeah, and brother Cody was saying, yeah, what's good, Cody? Yeah, it's like 15 years was the last time we had a major accident like this involving air carriers, but they're not telling you about the big airplanes. There are people who own their own 737s. They own Airbuses. They're not air carriers. They're considered general aviation. Things happen with those airplanes all the time. You won't hear about that because they're not at air carrier airports. They're at these smaller airports. They're not at the major airports. You know what I mean? I got my brother in the building, Falcon Laser Strike Force. He and I were talking about this. This is the reason I was late. Brother Carlos, who is a pilot, who's flown in Southern California and on the West Coast, confirmation bias, bro. Pilots are trained to be aware of confirmation bias. Controllers are trained to be aware of that. And that's exactly what's going on, man. Absolutely correct. Appreciate that, man. We got G Complex in the building, bro. What's good, man? And you're welcome. If I can do something on aviation, bro, if something happens in aviation, you guys know I can jump on that. I'm gonna definitely jump on that. I mean, come on, that's what I did for over 20 years. FAA, right? I got 4 years Army. I learned how to become an air traffic controller in 1990, right? So, yeah, I'm all about that. So I just wanted to paint the picture, guys. There's a lot going on. This will be considered moderate traffic. This is moderate traffic, not a lot of complexity, except for this helicopter route. If this helicopter wasn't in the picture, this would be very routine, not busy at all, regular traffic. This is something you can do, you know what I mean, with one eye closed. I mean, it's not that difficult. But when you add this helicopter to the scenario, it becomes very, very complex, and it can get away from you quick. We're talking about our nation's capital, bro. There's a lot of restricted airspace. There's a lot of stuff they can't deviate. They have to fly these routes. Now, the controller can hold these helicopters, just tell them to hold position or give them a point to hold over and either have them fly around in circles in a standard holding pattern or just have them hover. If the controller had gave this helicopter a spot to hold, he could have taken care of getting his departure out. He could take care of this guy off the departure in. Okay, let's get him turned on the heading. Let's get him climbing to where he needs to be. Let's ship him off to the next controller. Okay, now let's launch the 737 who's in position because the guy that was landing on 3-3 has already passed his runway. No longer a factor. I can launch this guy. He's going. Right, the guy on the runway who landed 3-3, hey, contact ground or go to parking, whatever, got that done. And that helicopter would just be holding that position. Just kind of sitting right there holding. Now he got this RJ, circle the land, 3-3, clear the land, things are good. And then you'll see the other big jet coming behind him is going to land on runway 1. Okay, cool. I'm only working 2 airplanes now. Things are looking good. Let me give another traffic call to this helicopter. Hey, now I'm gonna give you another traffic call on this regional jet who was going to be landing on runway 3-3. That is what the old timers would want to do. Let's guarantee we have some separation here. We know that this route is going to take him way too close to our approach end of the runway we're using, one of the runways we're using. So let's just get this guy out of the picture. Right? One of the things that you learn as an air traffic controller as you become a journeyman and you just kind of getting better and picking up techniques, whenever you have a situation where it's just, oh man, I don't know what to do. This is crazy. I got all these airplanes. All you have to do is follow Little Stevie rule. It's the golden rules of Little Stevie. If you're watching this, Little Stevie, shout out to you. It's one of our buddies that I worked with for years at Van Nuys. One of Little Stevie's rules is you find the aircraft that's a problem for you and remove them. You know what? Everything I'm trying to do will work really good right now if I didn't have this helicopter, or if I didn't have this Cessna, or if I didn't have this jet. It's one airplane that's messing up your plan. You find that airplane and remove them, and your plan works. That's what old controllers do. We sit back and we look at it. You know, it's 3D chess. Like, man, I'm working too hard right here. Let me move this Cessna out of the way. Let me move this Cherokee out of the way. Let me break this Bonanza out. Let me send this Gulfstream around. Let me pull him off the approach again back to the radar guys. If I can do that, then I'm solid. And that's what you do. That's what you do as an air traffic controller. So let's get back to running this. The controller is called the local controller. The local controller is the air traffic controller who's talking to the airplanes in the air, and he's departing the airplanes on the ground. They're at his runway. The local controller has just told American 1630, runway 1, line up and wait. Traffic 2 out for runway 33. There's traffic on 6 Mile final. Right? So according to this transmission, this regional jet at 1,000 feet is 2 miles away from the airport, and he is going to land on runway 33. Right. So now we kind of got a reference. This bridge or whatever is 2 miles away from the airport. So if he's 2 miles away and this helicopter is about 2 miles away, now you got 4 miles as opposed to 6 or 7 miles. Now you can see how this is going to really become a factor. This helicopter is doing about 80 knots. The jet is doing about 120 knots. So just under a 200 knot closure rate. They're going to get together quick. And you see the point where they're going to meet. Right. So let's continue.
Runway 33, dispatch 16 Mile final. Whiskey 6307, keep rolling out to November, Crown 47 today. American 16, turn to 1 star 32014, Duck 25, traffic 2 mile left base runway 33, no delay, runway 13 for immediate takeoff.
Number 1, clear for takeoff, American 1630.
So right here, you heard him put American in position on runway 1. He told him when he put him in position, hey, there's going to be traffic 2 miles out, landing runway 33. Right? He had airplane Blue Streak. That was the RJ that was the number 1 guy who already landed 33. Blue Streak. He told him to keep it going to November, and he gave him taxi instructions into the ramp. Okay, Blue Streak did that. He passes the runway. He passes runway 1. Once that aircraft is clear runway 1, the local controller can launch, can clear for takeoff the guy he put on the runway. Right? So he's like, American. He told the American 737 about the CRJ that's on a 2 mile base now, landing 33. Why is he worried about this? These runways intersect. He needs to get this airplane airborne and clear of runway 33 before the regional jet crosses the threshold of the runway, which is the leading edge of the runway. Right? Yeah, ASAP. So the controller is clearly worried about what's going on with his runways. He's worried about runway 1. He's worried about runway 33. He's worried about the American 737 that's departing runway 1. And he's worried about the CRJ. And what is the call sign? Blue Streak. He's worried about Blue Streak 5342, who is circling to land, or like a sidestep maneuver or whatever you want to call it. He's going to land on runway 33. He's not worried about Pat 25. Why? Because that helicopter pilot said he sees the jet and he's going to maintain visual separation, fancy air traffic control talk, which means, hey, I'm going to stay away from the airplane. Is basically what he's saying. I'm going to pass behind the airplane. That's the instruction. I don't believe the local controller said anything to Blue Streak 5342 about this helicopter, who was going to be basically within less than a quarter mile away from the runway that he's landing on. I don't think he said anything. Pat 25 is at 200 feet. Blue Streak 5342 is at 600 feet descending. Pat 25 is level. He might even go up 100 feet or so. So you can see right here, this would have been an excellent time for a traffic call. The airplanes are way closer now. Now you're looking at maybe 2 miles, mile and a half. So Pat 25, traffic, 12 o'clock, mile and a half, turning final for runway 33, RJ 600, descending. That should have been the traffic call. right? And as soon as Pat 25 will say we have him in sight, or he's going to say we're looking. More than likely, he's going to say searching. So the helicopter would have slowed down. I don't see this traffic. Just turning for runway 33, which is right here. Right? It's right here. Blue Streak 5342, traffic, 12 o'clock, mile and a half southbound, helicopter, 200, right? He's like 200 feet. Blue Streak 5342 will say looking. Now, his avionics, the pilots have a radar on board. The radar definitely sees this helicopter. We don't know what the computer is telling the pilot. It definitely sees it. Once you tell this pilot about this helicopter, he's going to get nervous. This Blue Streak pilot, the crew on board, they're not going to want to descend until they see this helicopter. And they're going to want to know, hey, are you going to restrict this helicopter? What's this helicopter doing? This is very important. The traffic calls, when the way we were trained and the way we train people when we were coming up, traffic for one is traffic for the other. But this controller isn't worried about it because 2 miles ago, 3 miles ago, this helicopter pilot said he saw this jet. This helicopter pilot is still looking on final for runway 1. There's a jet out there. There's a really big airplane out there. It's bigger than the RJ. It's an Airbus with his landing light on. Big, bright, Venus-looking light. And Pat 25 is like, yeah, that's the same light that we saw earlier. Obviously, it's going to look bigger now because it's gotten closer. But what Pat 25 doesn't realize, and guys, I am speculating here. This is my take. This is just me speculating here, right? I have no information other than what we're looking at here. Pat 25 possibly saw Blue Streak 5342 on that initial call when they were like 5 miles apart. Pat 25 is flying. Brother Pablo, he's talking about, was there training? They were calling this a training flight. Military guys train all the time. We don't know what they were doing in the aircraft. We don't know if they were flying with their nods, like their NVG stuff, their nighttime goggles. We don't know if one of the pilots was doing that. We don't know what was going on. Was this a proficiency flight? Was this a training flight? We don't know. It's all those flights that say training, but we don't know if it was training, slant proficiency. We don't know. So Pat 25, a couple miles previous, saw a light out here over the bridge, if he knew where the bridge was, but he saw a light out there. And here's the thing. He still sees a light out there, but what he doesn't see is Blue Streak 5342 maneuvering his airplane. He's turning his airplane so he can sidestep over to the other runway. So he's coming in, and he's like, I'm going to sidestep over here. His landing light, which is not as powerful as that Airbus landing light, is possibly pointed away from the helicopter. We're not quite sure which way the helicopter is facing. We don't know his orientation. This route kind of bends around. So this guy's kind of flying around on this route that kind of bends around. So we don't know exactly which way this helicopter is facing. And we don't know exactly which way the RJ is facing as the RJ makes his turn to the northeast, so he can turn back to the northwest to land on runway 33. At that moment, Pat 25 may not see this big regional jet out there. Pat 25 sees this big old light out there on final behind him, which is another aircraft. This is the possible straw that broke the camel's back. This is the possible one. And yeah, you would say like that. G Complex is saying it looked like the RJ got T-boned from below. Remember, the RJ is descending and the helicopter is level. The RJ is descending. And they caught each other right there on final at the same altitude. Right? And yeah, ATSAP is a program. It's a voluntary reporting program that air traffic controllers use. And I'm just going to keep it at 100. They use it so they can get out of trouble. If you voluntarily report yourself, you're not going to get any real trouble. back in the day when Jay Swans and I started, you could have 3 what we call deals. You could have 3 separation errors as an air traffic controller. And I think it was within 2 years or within 3 years or something like that. If you got, I think it was in 2 years. If you got 3 deals, 3 separation errors within 3 years, they will pull your ticket. You won't be able to talk to airplanes. They have to find you a job doing clerical stuff or whatever until you have to come away from airplanes until the clock resets. And they make you do a bunch of training. We would get in trouble. They would literally beat us over the head, not physically, of course, but they would just browbeat us and make sure, you know, like when your puppy messes up, you smack them around and rub their nose in it. That's what the FAA did to us. We did not want a deal. We did not want a deal. We were all about separation. We didn't want a deal. We fought tooth and nail to keep a deal from happening. And we always figured out ways to get better. That's what we did. Well, the FAA stopped that. And they went to this program where you can just basically tell yourself, and in the FAA being the kinder and gentler FAA, because we got what I think these millennials and all these other kids that came up, everybody getting a trophy, got these kids that don't know how to lose, right? We can't yell at them anymore. There were people who didn't want to train with me because I would call you stupid. I would actually hit you. And I would tell people, you want me to train you? This is how I get down. If you can't handle it, I'm not training you. And they would please train me because they knew I would get them through the program. They knew they would get better, but they knew it was going to hurt. Ask anybody that I trained. I hit you in the back of the head in a heartbeat. We go down to the debrief, doing the debriefing. I'm on you. I'm giving you assignments. I'm like, I'm going to work as hard. I'm going to work harder than you to get you through the training program, to get you more money, to make you a better controller. So you got to work harder than me. And those controllers who decided to train with me, they loved it. The weak ones, the soft ones, they ran from me. They ran. They couldn't hack it. And guess what? The FAA would coddle them and save them. Save me from the mean controllers. Save me from DL. Save me. I even changed my initials. Save me from UK. They were afraid of me. That's how I got down. But if you work with me, you got through. And not only did you get through, if you continue to work on that foundation that we built and continue to get better, I mean, bro, you'll become legendary. And I'm proud to say a lot of the controllers that I trained, yes, they have gone on to be legendary controllers. And I'm proud of that. But the FAA went back to this, we need to stop punishing people. We're going to give this ATSAP thing and we're going to let them self-report. And we're not going to beat them up. We're not going to make them better. Again, this is all me talking, guys. I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm going to get back to business. But that's what happened. And like Jason Wan said, bro, 3 separation errors. It was 3 separation errors within 3 years, decertification and retraining for errors. That's what we went through. If you screwed up, they held you accountable, bro. It wasn't no getting out of it. You screwed that up. They held you accountable. You lost your ticket, you decertified, got to go down and train. Then you got to come back upstairs and then people got to train you. They probably make you train with the person that you recently got through. So now the person you were just over there browbeating, now you need them to get you recertified and they browbeating you. So it is what it is. Brother Carlos, could you inform the audience on how you guys talk on both VHF and UHF frequencies? Yet civil only hears half of the conversation between towers and military. Yes. In some facility, at all facilities, every air traffic control tower has UHF frequency capabilities. The UHF frequencies are on, but they have it on a speaker and we listen for it. We know that the military guys are inbound. The majority of the time, the military guys are coming in on a VHF frequency. Sometimes they'll come in using a UHF frequency. I know the Navy is notorious for coming in UHF. So when you're working multiple frequencies, everyone can hear the air traffic controller. but everyone can't hear all of the other aircraft. So if you're working a flight of 3 F-18s and they're on a UHF frequency, they can hear you, the tower, but they can't hear any of the other airplanes. So let's say you got 6 other airplanes out there. That flight, they don't hear the other airplanes. They just hear you talking to the other airplanes. They don't hear them responding. So as an air traffic controller, you got to manage that. That adds to the complexity of what's going on. Right? And the pilots trust us to get it right. Brother Vaughn, what's good, man? Good to see you, brother. So you definitely get that. Some towers like Van Nuys, we only would have one UHF frequency. So if you had an airplane, let's say you have, I remember once we had a B-1 bomber fly in to Van Nuys from Kansas. He just doing a training flight. They needed to go somewhere. Hey, we'll go to Van Nuys. Flew into Van Nuys. They knew that they can do practice approaches or whatever. It helped them out for what they wanted to do. A lot of people don't want to accommodate these big airplanes for a bunch of different reasons. But at Van Nuys, like, man, if it flies, we'll talk to it. So B-1 bomber came in. Beautiful airplane, by the way, guys. Beautiful airplane. They came in, did their thing. They were UHF the whole time. They landed. And once they landed, we had to share the UHF frequency. So once they land, talking to the local guy, talking to the tower guy, right? They get off the runway, now they got to talk to ground. So what the tower does is tell ground, you take the UHF frequency. Now ground control has the UHF frequency, and they're taxiing the guy in. The guy taxis in, and the guy's like, hey, we want to pick up a clearance. We're going to wherever. Okay. Now you got to go talk to clearance delivery. So then ground controller tap clearance delivery controller on the shoulder and say, hey, clearance, pick up the UHF frequency. You got, Lancer 2 is going to call you for a clearance going to Kansas. And then the flight data clearance delivery guy picks up the frequency and, oh, there it is, Lancer 2. So that's how the smaller towers will run that. Some of the big towers will have UHF frequencies for local, ground, and like data. It depends on the facility. I can't remember. I mean, at Miami, I don't remember if they had 2 or 3 UHF frequencies in the tower. I don't remember. I know they had at least one. So, but every facility is different. So let's get back to this, right? So when I was last talking about this, Pat 25 believes he sees this RJ out there, blue streak, 5342. I believe that Pat 25 is looking at this American Airlines Airbus that's out here on about a 3 or 4 mile final.
Pat 25, get the CRJ in flight. Pat 25, pass behind this CRJ.
Pat 25 has a aircraft in flight request for separation.
Good separation.
Did you hear how calm the helicopter pilot was? Tower's like, hey, Pat 25, do you have the RJ in sight? Maintain visual separation. And then Pat 25 is like, yeah, we still have the traffic in sight. We'll maintain visual separation. I believe that Pat 25 is looking at American 3130. That's my theory. I believe that Pat 25 is looking at American 3130, who's approaching about a 4 mile final. He doesn't see Blue Streak 5342. Remember, Blue Streak is kind of maneuvering the airplane so he can land on that other runway 33. I don't think that Pat 25 sees him. Tower reached out to him. Hey, confirm you still have that traffic in sight. This is why it would have been a better move to hold Pat 25 somewhere north or east of the airport and not let him fly down here until you can get a better control of things. If Pat 25 was holding a mile and a half northeast of the airport, looking south, he would see Blue Streak. He's like, oh, that's the airplane he was talking about. What's that other airplane out there? Oh, that's American 3130. He's going to be landing runway 1, which again would have been close to Pat 25 once he cleared the final approach course for runway 33. Do you see how the complexity level just went through the roof? Again, how do we fix it when it gets too complex? Which one of these aircraft can I remove from this problem to make my night easier? Right? The answer, the helicopter. We're going to hold this VFR helicopter somewhere northeast of the airport, and we're going to wait until we land these airplanes. Like that's what you do. But the controller who has it in his mind, he has confirmation bias that this helicopter sees the airplane that he's worried about. And he saw this airplane from way over here, from 3 or 4 miles ago. And I don't believe that he saw Blue Streak 5342. And I certainly don't believe that he sees Blue Streak 5342 right now, because Blue Streak is maneuvering to land on this runway, which he's about to cross.
American 4782 by Bath, not for individual.
American 472, Oscar 1 star 32017.
And you see they showed what happened. You can see.
You see that? 472. American 3130, go around.
You can see in this picture here that faint glimmer of a light that has like a little strobe effect on it, and it's flashing a little bit. That's the helicopter. Here's the regional jet. The helicopter obviously did not see the regional jet until it was too late. Right? And this is what it looks like.
Left end 250, climb maintain 3000.
Okay, left heading 350, 3000, American 3130. Tower Blue Streak 5347 is on final.
Now they had that slowed down. They slowed that down so you guys can see it, but this is air traffic control, guys. This is why air traffic controllers get paid so much. This is threading the needle. This is the job. And American air traffic controllers get it right the vast majority of the time. A lot of close calls out there. And it's one of the sayings we have as air traffic controllers: rather be lucky than good. Well, we don't have experienced air traffic controllers like we used to. They're retiring. A lot of them have lost their they lost their ability to control airplanes because of medical conditions. You know, maybe they got diabetes, or they got, you know, some other condition, and the flight surgeon won't let them work anymore. Right? Maybe they had a stroke. You know, the flight surgeon won't let them work anymore. Maybe they have, you just never know. So you got controllers who can't control. They're not up in the tower anymore. The guys who can still work, man, they're tired of working long hours. They want to spend time with their grandbabies and stuff like that, or they want to travel with the wife. They go ahead and pull the trigger. Like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and retire. You don't have the experience in the tower, in my opinion, like we used to. I spent hours today talking to friends of mine who have retired, that I work with all over the country. We watch these videos. We listen to the transmissions, and we all agreed. It's like, bro, you should have held that helicopter. There's no way. In fact, my buddy is the one who brought up the theory. He doesn't want me to say his name, so I know. But you know who you are, Howie. That's his alias. He's the one, because he's an air traffic controller, but he's also an accomplished pilot. He's like, yeah, man, when Blue Streak was maneuvering to land on 3-3, I think that he was invisible to Pat 25, who was putting along down there on that route. Blue Streak's higher, descending. Pat 25's down there. Who knows what kind of training they're doing? If one of the pilots are wearing the night vision stuff and the other pilot isn't, and which way are they looking? Remember, they never gave a proper traffic call. It was always ahead to the left, or over the bridge, or do you see this? Do you see that? It was never like what we call a traffic alert, which that last transmission should have been a traffic alert. Traffic alert, traffic, right? 12 o'clock, quarter mile, northbound, RJ, same altitude. If you don't have traffic in sight, turn left immediately. If you don't have traffic in sight, descend. If you don't have traffic in sight, do something. That's traffic alert. Never did that. Never did that.
I'll request runway 33, circle to 33. Second heading for American 3130.
American 3130, go around to left end 270, climb maintain 3000.
270 on the heading, 3000, American 3130.
Crash. This is alert 3.
In this part, This was the tower controllers that crash alert 3 stuff. This is tower stuff. This that wasn't a radio that goes out onto this it's a phone call that goes into this just like a big phone chain. So we heard that before. We don't have to listen to that again. I believe that the Pat 25 did not see the regional jet that the controller was trying to get him to see. But Pat 25 said he saw the aircraft, right? He saw lights out there. He saw a bunch of lights flying over the city. The air traffic controller wasn't, in my opinion, experienced enough to realize that this could be a problem. Like, I'm not quite sure he sees that traffic. Let me go ahead and hold this guy for a minute or two. If he had told that the Pat 25 to hold, Pat 25 would have had to hold maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes max. 3 minutes max before he got to go on his way again. And this is how old controllers think. And Jay Swans is saying it appears you're correct. Looks like he looking past the RJ. ATC should have given calls per the 0.65. The 7110.65 is it's really one big document, but it's the book that governs air traffic control rules. 7110.65. So you'll hear controllers say 7110, you'll have controllers say 0.65, but that's what he's talking about. Sister Tia. So 2 jets were lined up back to back, and he saw the brighter lights from the jet in the back. Correct. And honestly, sis, from the time the Pat 25 was in the traffic area, listening and talking to the controller, there were 3 jets lined up, and there were another 3 jets behind them. So you're talking about 6 jets lined up on final. The first 2 jets were regional jets. They moved them to runway 33. Then you had the Airbus that he's talking to now. You had the regional jet that just departed. You have a 737 who's on the runway that they put on runway 1. And you're waiting to get that guy who landed 3-3 clear of runway 1 so you can launch him. So you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 9 airplanes that he's really going to be dealing with, plus the helicopter. And all this is going to happen within a 15-minute time frame. So air traffic control is a lot of feel to it. You know, sometimes you make a call to someone and they answer too fast. Sometimes they're answering too quick. I'm giving you a traffic call. I'm telling you, hey, traffic, 12 o'clock, 12 miles opposite direction, 6,000 descending, Boeing 737. You're like, oh, traffic in sight. Like, hold on. Like, that airplane is far away. How you seeing that airplane? You see all them lights out there? How you know which light I'm talking about? When you make a call that far away, you're just telling the pilot to start looking that way. You're just kind of looking in the right direction. But because you're on this route that kind of maneuvers around like this and then curves down, you got to stop that. Man, let's hold this guy. Let's get these jets in. Let me run my squeeze play is what we call it. We're going to put this guy on a runway. We got a guy landing this runway. We got guys out here ready to land on his runway. Let's get all this going. Right? And once we get all that taken care of, now you can take a breath and look at what's going on. Okay, what do I have now? I got this Airbus out here. And you're going to have at least 3 miles between each arrival. This mandatory spacing that the radar guys have to give you. If they're going to give you less than 3 miles, they got to tell you. So you know you got 3 miles between these airplanes. And when you circle these airplanes to land on the other runway 33, you're messing with that separation. You're messing with that spacing. But as an air traffic controller, you're cool. You're not worried about it. You got this under control. If only I can do away with this helicopter. Yeah, you hold the helicopter, remove him from the problem. You hold him over here, and that's how you handle that. Sister Tia was saying the brighter lights from the back jet made the jet in front like a blind spot for the helicopter. Yeah, you're just trying to understand. Yeah, something like that. So you got 2 airplanes, right? And the way they're spaced out, there's one lower and one higher. So when airplanes land, they don't come down. They're not nose down, right? You've seen airplanes when they're landing, they kind of ease back a little bit, kind of tilted back as they're descending. They don't normally descend like that. They just kind of easing on down. Those lights are pointing in that direction. So the first airplane, which is in line, you might be able to see this one. This one's kind of back, right? And then once this airplane turns, you're not going to see that light anymore. You'll see the light from the guy behind him. So yeah, the one in front was blocking the light from the one in the back. So once the one in front moves, from your point of view in your aircraft, you looking out there, you see another light. I still see that light. It's still out there. Is it dimmer? No, it looks brighter. Oh, that makes sense because he's closer. That's what you're thinking. He's closer. So the light's bigger. That makes sense. Nah, bro, the one you were looking at moved and you're not quite sure where he is. And the tower isn't telling you via these traffic calls, the clock position where he is. This is why you want to use clock positions. We're sitting here. What am I looking for? You're looking for some at your 11 o'clock, 2.5 miles. He's higher than you because I'm giving you the altitude. He's higher than you and he's descending. Oh, I thought you were worried about these airplanes on the ground. Nah, I'm worried about these airplanes out here to your 10 and 11 o'clock. That is what then the pilot's going to say, hold on, I don't see any traffic. Hey, I see a guy way out there. No, that's not him. Right? You can get lost in the lights. Once that airplane turns, you can get lost in the lights. And that's what I believe was happening. So yes, sis, you're right. Yes, you are understanding correctly. You are absolutely you're picking up what we're putting down here. That's what happened. Yeah, so what you're talking about, Cody, is something that you guys know I'm not a Trump fan. Trump likes to open his mouth and shove his foot right in there, right? You can't be disabled and work as an air traffic controller. You have to pass a series of tests. There is a standard for air traffic control. If your legs don't work, yes, that's fine. Your mind has to be sharp. You're going to have to pass a series of tests. You have to pass a physical to be an air traffic controller that's administered by the flight surgeon. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't any paralyzed or paraplegic air traffic controllers. I'm not saying that. I am saying I've never met one. I am saying that. It would be very difficult for a person who can't walk to work in a controlled tower. You would have to do too many modifications. There's too much going on. If somehow you were to fall out of your chair, that is a safety issue. You got to be able to stand up and look out these windows. You got to be able to look out the windows and see what's going on. So if you go to the usajobs.gov, you will see what Trump people saw about disabled and mentally different people, right? It's not to be an air traffic controller. It's to work for the federal government. You can apply to be a janitor. You can apply to be security. You can apply to do these different jobs, but you're not going to pass the flight surgeon physical to become an air traffic controller. So again, that is not true. I can see how maybe Trump himself went to a website or maybe one of his people said something and they just fired off. It's just kind of like when we talk to dudes about talking to women, right? What's the number one thing I tell you? Number one things, keep your foot out your mouth. Like the number one thing to being successful with women is, don't screw yourself up, bro. Just shut up, right? Just let her do her thing. Say that's what Trump should have done, man. And Jay Swan's right there to square you away. Like they don't push that sort of thing. You can't have those kind of challenges and be an air traffic controller. You just can't do it. It's just too difficult. Imagine if you're 4 feet tall. You're not going to be able to look out the windows. How can you be an air traffic controller? Part of your job is to visually scan runways and taxiways when you give an instruction. So when I clear someone for takeoff, I got to scan the entire runway. And then I have to look up to make sure there's nothing in the departure corridor to the left or right or up or down. I got to be able to look out the window to see that. If I can't look over the equipment, if I can't do that, I can't work the job. And a lot of people say, well, you have a radar. The radar is a look into the past. The radar is not real time. There's a lag. So a lot of young controllers would do that. I'm looking at the radar, like, stop looking at that radar. Look out the window. The radar is not real time. On a radar, it looks great for a couple of sweeps until it doesn't. But when you look out the window, you can see the traffic's merging. You can see the targets merging. Like, look at that. You see that airplane? You see that airplane? Does that look good to you? No. Do something about it. turn right immediately. Section 22 uniform, turn right immediately. Stuff like that. You know what I mean? Learjet 665, begin to climb, go around. The radar is a depiction of the past. This is why you must look out the window. You must look out the window. So there's just certain things you can't do. Certain people is not going to be able to be an air traffic controller because they won't be able to pass the physical. I mean, it is what it is. And Fox put that stuff out there, man. Cody, listen, we know what we're talking about here, bro. You can't, they got that from, they went on the website and they saw this thing and they're trying to push whatever narrative. I'm not here to talk about narratives. I'm here to talk about air traffic. And like, this is what happened. And Brother Powell was like, yeah, he's looking, he's like, yeah, he's thinking that the jet in front was maneuvering. The first jet had to maneuver to land on runway 33. It's called a sidestep maneuver. That's the first thing he said. Hey, can you take the sidestep to runway 33? One of the pilots asked for it, and the other pilot, the controller, solicited it. So I'll have to go back and listen to that original talk with the jets. That's important. That's very important. If the aircraft that was involved in the collision, if air traffic control solicited him to take that circle to 33, that's bad. If the pilot asked for the circle to 33, okay, the pilot asked for it, that's a little bit better. But again, air traffic controllers' jobs are to prevent collisions in the system. That is an air traffic controller's job. If two airplanes come together in the system, then we did something. Well, I can't say we, I'm no longer a controller. Something went wrong. The air traffic controller is the last defense. Is the last defense. So if the air traffic controller fails to catch it, then now we're relying 100% on luck. So how do air traffic controllers deal with this? Strong techniques. As I got older, my mind wasn't as sharp, but my techniques were so sharp that it kept me out of trouble. I know where I'm going to hold this guy. This doesn't sound right. I'm not going to do that. Sometimes like, hey, the radar guys might call you and say, hey, can you get this guy out right away? Controllers are like to say, yeah, I can do it. And they really can't. Like, there's no way I can get this guy airborne within the next minute and a half. It's not going to happen. So I would tell the radar controller, hey, man, I can't do it. Now, if I could do it, yeah. If I can get him going, yes. If I know I can get it done, I'll tell him I could get it done. Especially if I'm familiar with the airplane, I'm familiar with the crew. These voices sound familiar. They fly to here all the time. Hey, can you take an immediate? Yes, sir. And then you get Lear 4 Charlie Lima, runway, whatever, runway 12, clear for immediate takeoff. And they're going to burn rubber around the corner. And the radar guys will love that. But if you're like, oh, can you take an immediate? And he's like, no, not really, but you're clearing for takeoff anyway. And he takes his time and he lines up and he does all that kind of stuff. The radar guys are going to be mad because they're counting on you to tell them the truth. Right? They're counting on you to tell them the truth. You're going to hear all this talk about the DEI, man. Like, stay away from that narrative, man. I'm here to tell you, bro. Stay away from that narrative. If you want to delve into the racial background in American air traffic control, you're not going to see a whole lot of people that look like me, bro. You're not going to see a whole lot of black and brown folks. They're just now getting hired on. When I got into the agency, bro, like at Van Nuys, I was at Van Nuys, my first 10 years at Van Nuys, it was just 2 people of color, 2 black people. At one point, we'll have 3, but then someone would leave and be back to 2 again. It was like we're the Sith. It was like the rule of 2, bro. It was hilarious. So, yes, the government is going to reach out to women and people of color, but it doesn't mean that people are jumping on. And you got to pass the physicals. You got to pass the psych evals. If you go to the academy, you got to pass that. It's not easy. You know what I mean? It's not easy. They're not just giving people a license to fly airplanes into each other. And I'm not sure if they're going to release the identities of the people involved, but when they do, It's not going to look like a whole bunch, like a DEI adventure to me. When they do, it's just going to, it's going to look like what it looks like. But the flight surgeon will yank your card, right, in a heartbeat. The flight surgeon, bro, if you get a cold and you take certain over-the-counter medicines and they find out, they're snatching your card, bro. Bro, they don't mess around. Flight surgeons are just like, oh my God, they're it is what it is. And they say you can't, you didn't pass, you didn't pass. They make you take extra tests, you got to take extra tests. Bro, you have to fight with them to get your clearance. And I think the flight surgeons do it just so they can feel important. And these are doctors that couldn't get into a hospital. They decided to do this. Brother Paul Bennett, what's good, man? Please salute to you, brother. Appreciate the $2, man. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate that. We're just speaking on what happened. And like I said, bro, there's another video I want to show. And you're right, bro. Like, this thing was unnecessary. This helicopter route doesn't make sense to me. Why would you have a helicopter route like that? Like, why would you set yourself up for failure like that? I understand that sometimes you got to thread the needle, but that route, and as a controller at Van Nuys has some crazy airspace. It's probably one of the most unique places in the national airspace system. When people come in and see what they were doing, they was like, yo, what are y'all doing here? It's crazy, but it's the only way we could get it to work. And those helicopter routes were always a problem. The routes were set up for noise reasons and stuff like that. But those helicopter routes, bro, there was always a problem. They're like right next to the airplanes. But we never set up a route at Van Nuys that would have the helicopter crossing low level in front of a landing runway. It just wouldn't make sense. Like, no. The controllers would say no. Like, what are you trying to do? Man, that's no. Why are we doing that? Like, we can do something else. Well, this is the only way we can do it. Well, then we're not using that at all. We're not using that. You cannot do that. Right? You just cannot do that. Right? It's one of those things where if it's unsafe, the air traffic controller will be the first one to tell you. Like, you can't do that. Well, I've seen you work before and you can make it happen. Like, okay, I can do it. Right? But it's like saying that every basketball player in the NBA can play like Michael Jordan. No, they can't. Every football player, every quarterback in the NFL cannot play like Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady. They can't. Right? So you if you are the top dog, you got to be the one speaking the loudest. Like, man, that's unsafe. You never want to have an aircraft like a helicopter crossing the approach end of your runways low level. There's no separation built in. The Van Nuys routes would have some separation built in east and west and, vertically. It's like, well, at least we got, we might have 100 feet separation built into this procedure. We might have half a mile on either side built into this procedure. At least you got something. If the helicopter is where it's supposed to be, it's not going to bump into any airplanes. At least you got something. Now, the airplanes will be able to see it with their equipment. It's like, yo, what's that? And then, and we have some problems with aircraft, climbing out because this helicopter is there. Even though the controller told you, and even though you said, pilot, that you saw him, yeah, but I got an RA resolution. I gotta climb. Okay. Right. But to have a route like this one that cuts in front of your landing runway within a quarter mile, that just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, Carlos, first thing is first rules of pilot for runways, get off of it. Absolutely. Absolutely. I could tell you stories where we had a pilot once that landed, made a feint as if he got off the runway, but he didn't, stayed on the runway, went all the way to the end of the runway, turned around and just sat there while other airplanes were landing, jets and stuff. And no one saw him. You look down there like, what what is he doing? And then we had to get into that. That wasn't long after 9/11. The guy was a foreigner. He was like a UK guy who had an American pilot license, rented the airplane. Oh man, they sent agents all the way over to UK to find this dude. Like, what the hell were you doing? Because he left right away. Like, he had this problem. We're trying to figure this stuff out. He got on the plane and went back to UK. And guess what? The US sent people over there looking for him. They found him. And it just turns out the guy was not smart. And you're right. The helicopter route is the most questionable thing about this whole thing, this whole incident, this whole accident. That route should not be. That route, let me go back here and look at this, guys, so you guys can see it. Let me pull this back up. Look at this thing, guys. This helicopter route should not be here. It should not be here. It's too close to your runways. This helicopter route is too close and it's right over the water. Like, I mean, why not use, we would look at it again, we don't know anything about the airspace. It's like, why not use the west side of the airport? Why not do that? Right? But we don't know where restrictions are out there, what's going on. Why not push them further to the east? Push them further to the east. Right? There's a freeway out here. Right? Looks like I-200 or something like that. Put them over these freeways. Get them away from your runways. That's the first thing that's going to go, guys. I'm telling you that right now. The first thing there, that is gone. That is gone. They are going, that is gone. Yeah, and then that's another thing too. When you talk about these lawsuits, this stuff is going to be in court, 5, maybe 10 years from now. It depends on how long people want to hold out. Something like this, I would imagine that the FAA is just going to take responsibility and begin the negotiations for payout and stuff like that. But if they decide to fight it, man, this thing can linger in court forever. And they're going to bring in the air traffic controllers who were working. They're going to bring in every air traffic controller who was in the tower that day. They could bring in any air traffic controller that was working that day. Bro, I've been through that process, man. Just the deposition process alone is nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking, bro. And to actually have to go to trial, most of them don't go to trial, but I had one where we almost had to go to trial. They didn't settle that case until the day before we were supposed to show up in court. From the time of the accident until the time that we were supposed to go to court, it was 4 years. And they're asking you questions like, what was your state of mind that day? What did you have for breakfast? What did you do? Did you have a good commute that day? I mean, they're asking you all these questions like, what? I don't remember. This is where I learned to use I don't recall. That's when I learned to do that. Like, I don't recall. Right? So when you look at this air traffic controller, where he went wrong is he did not hold that helicopter. He allowed that helicopter to go on that route. He believed the pilot in the aircraft telling him, well, I'll see the traffic. Nah, man. I'm like, bro, I ain't believing that. That's what old air traffic controllers like, man, I don't know about that. That's too far away. Right? So when you look at the 7110.65, and it talks about traffic advisories, when should you issue a traffic advisory to a pilot? And the answer is you issue a traffic advisory in time for it to be useful to the pilot. That's the answer. So if you're issuing traffic advisories 5, 6, 7 miles out, is that necessarily useful to the pilot? And they're going to ask like, well, why didn't you follow up? Well, he said he had him in sight. And that's what they're going to probably hang their hat on. Well, the pilot said he's going to maintain visual. They're going to hang their hat on that. And then, of course, the attorney is going to be like, well, do you think it was reasonable that this aircraft could see who you're talking about at night with all them lights? You sure he knew what light you were worried about? Why didn't you follow up with the call prior to that frantic call in the end? So you see how that works out? You don't want to deal with that as a person, even if you quit, which I fully anticipate people quitting behind this one. Even if you quit, they still gonna come get you for court, bro. Right? These controllers and that guy who was on the radio have to figure out a way to live with the fact that 67 people were lost. 67 people were lost. Right? And a lot of this, when the NTSB look at this, they're going to be looking at noise abatement procedures. They're going to be looking at these routes. They're going to be asking these questions. Why do we have this route here? Why is this route being used? How many people did we have in the tower? Did you have any assistance for these guys? What's going on? These are the questions. So people are going to have to answer. Miss AKA ladies in the building. What's good, sis? Like, it's crazy. And you're right. Brother Carlos is saying that east route should be unavailable if runway 33 is in use. And you know what? That may well be the case. We don't know. I don't know what the procedures are. It may well be the case. It's unused, or maybe because the controller needed the pilot to say I have him in sight. Maybe it says, well, if the pilot doesn't have him in sight, then you have to hold him at a certain point or something like that. Man, he should have held that guy, bro. He should have held that guy. Yeah, and Cody, the video you saw was, you can remember what I said, that sometimes you work in multiple frequencies. You got the UHF frequency, you got the VHF frequency. Well, you could be working multiple VHF frequencies as well. Again, everyone's going to hear the controller, but the pilots won't hear the other pilots out there. So you heard a version out there where the air traffic controller was on one frequency. It was the frequency with the jets. And the pilots were talking to the jets, and he's also reaching out to Pat 25, and you can't hear the helicopter respond, but the controller could hear the helicopter respond. And another big thing here is he did not pass traffic from Blue Streak. He did not tell Blue Streak about the helo. That's going to be major. I did not hear him. We were listening to that thing. I was listening closely. I did not hear the controller, the local controller, tell Blue Streak, the regional jet, about the helicopter. Not one time. That's a problem. That's a problem. Andrea Nicole, thank you, sis. I appreciate you, the $5. Normally, I would hit my sound effects, but I'm not going to do it because of the subject matter here. This is pretty heavy, but I appreciate your love. Thank you so much. And I'm definitely going to continue following air traffic control stuff. I see you guys really like this, so I'm going to do my best to do that, man. I appreciate you listening to me. Thank you. Keep working hard out there at Burbank. Mandrill wants to know if he's going to take the fall for this incident. It's not going to be just him. The answer is probably yes. It's not going to be just him. This has become political. Like, the president's got involved and, dude's on his thing. So it's probably going to be the controller whose voice we hear. It's probably going to be the supervisor who was working, or the controller in charge, whichever it was. The manager of that facility is probably going to get removed. And probably the regional head of that region is probably going to get removed. They're going to go ham. This is just my take on this. This is my opinion. I think they're going to go ham on this. They are definitely going to be coming after people, which historically in the past has never happened. But this has become very political. They're going to go after people. They're going to go into training. They're going to be pulling stuff from the training files. They're going to be looking at all the training reports. They're going to go through this with a fine-tooth comb. And that's just the FAA side. I'm not even talking about the NTSB. The NTSB is going to do what they always do. And they're going to get all of the information. It's going to take them a while. And they're going to come up with solutions. They're going to say, hey, this is what happened. And this is what we believe will remedy this situation in the future. Right? And like Jay Swan said, like Jay Swan was on the management side. I was on the union side. And he's right. They're going to stick it to the controllers. It's going to be rough. But that's what you get. That's what that's what you get paid for. It's not what you do every day, but stuff like this. And he's absolutely right, man. When you thread the needle, you better know what you're doing. You better not miss. And again, it all boils down to, in my opinion, lack of seasoning, lack of experience. So I want to do one more video. This is Breaking Points. Y'all know I love Breaking Points, man. Shout out to Sager and Crystal. There's a part in here where they were talking, and I kind of want to address what they were saying. Kind of my way of answering Sager, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what you guys are saying in the chat here. Appreciate you guys listening to me, man. I really do. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff. You know, YouTube, man, they be shadow banning me, man. You know what it is? YouTube just be hating on a brother. But if we just keep watching and commenting and sharing and liking, hopefully one of these days we'll break the algorithm and they'll, you know, just show us a little bit of good do. But let's listen to what Sager had to say about this crash, and I'm going to respond to what he was saying. So let's check this out. Again, this is Breaking Point, guys. If you haven't done so, please jump over there, like and subscribe. Both of these videos are linked in the description below. Support independent news. Crystal and Sager are definitely opposite sides of the spectrum. I like the way they bring this news forward. I wish mainstream media did this. Brother Carlos, thank you so much for the $10 super chat, man. Thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate you. Blue Streak was on short final. Only call I want to hear on short final is go around. Facts. When I'm focused on the TDZs, which is he's talking air traffic pilot stuff here. I don't need to be looking around for traffic that shouldn't have been there or shouldn't be there. And you're absolutely right, brother. And Blue Streak should have had that traffic call when the local controller told the helicopter about Blue Streak, traffic's over the bridge, 4 miles, blah, blah, blah. When he did that, his next call should have been to Blue Streak. He should have told Blue Streak about the helicopter. Right? And again, it should have been a standard traffic call. Right? He should have told Blue Streak, you know, traffic, you know, 1:30, like, you know, 1 to 2 o'clock. So you say 1:30. Traffic 1:30, 4 miles, southbound on a helicopter route, 300. And then Blue Streak is going to say, Roger. So now Blue Streak, before he can focus on land, he's like, okay, I need to see this helicopter before anything else. And I believe if he had made that traffic call, Blue Streak would have been asking, where's this helicopter? Looking at his equipment on board. He's looking at these, you know, his computer is screaming at him. And I believe Blue Streak would have just pulled up. Like, I don't see this helicopter, man. We're going around. I believe that's what would have happened. Of course, I could be wrong. Right? You know, we don't know what would have happened, or we only know what did happen. So let's check this out, man. Again, this is Breaking Points.
Now, the big question marks are about some of the things that we are going to look at for transportation safety. And in the background of all of this, we'll recall all of those near misses that were happening over the last 4 years. Bizarrely, we seem to have weird connections to some of these. I mean, we were on the ground in Austin, I think the very hour that there was one of the nearest misses ever in U.S. history happened right there on the runway, where they had to abort a landing, you know, very, very quickly and avoid a collision there. But this raises big questions about, specifically really about the air traffic control, which have all the near misses have highlighted staffing problems, software issues. There's been accusations by the airlines, by the unions, etc. Nobody really knows anything. They're going to be a spotlight now on aviation safety. And that's the question mark now, because this is, you know, look, you know, it's not necessarily the Trump administration or whatever's fault, but they're going to have to deal with it now that this happens. And that's.
So, you know, he was saying the airlines are talking, the union is talking. The National Air Traffic Controllers Association, right? That's the air traffic control union. Every year, twice a year, goes to Washington, D.C. to lobby elected officials. We do this through, well, I keep saying we, but it's done through the PACs, which is separate from what's going on. This is allowed. We get duty time to do it. I've been to DC. I can't tell you how many times. And the air traffic controllers, or the air traffic control union, and the PAC is lobbying for lots of things. Of course, we need more air traffic controllers. Of course, we need an increase in budget. Of course, we need better equipment. Of course, we're going to need new facilities. Right? Of course, we need better training aids. We need better training equipment. Right? Every year, twice a year, the air traffic controllers go to DC and they wine and dine. Right? They are politicking. Right? They wine and dine the elected officials. And when I say the union drops a bunch of money, bro, when I'm saying they dropping a bag, bro, they're dropping a Santa Claus bag out there. We're talking about formal receptions on the Hill, bringing in caterers, paying for all this stuff. It is a lot of money, guys. A lot of money. The air traffic controllers have really good relationships with elected officials. So the elected officials know what's going on. They train us on how to do this lobby work, bro. We have to go through a class. We spend a whole day. They're teaching us how to talk and how to present our bills and what to say and who to meet with and why this person is important, why you don't necessarily need to talk to the elected official, how to take notes. When you get the notes, who to bring the notes back to. They follow up with everyone. The elected officials are thoroughly aware of what's going on in the world of air traffic control. Trust and believe when I tell you. So I just want you guys to know that. I spent so many hours walking around DC. I love DC. I love the history. I love all that. To me, it's great. I'm walking around in the Senate chambers. I'm walking around in the House, like offices and stuff like that. We meet and put Jay Swans was in John McCain's office when McCain was still alive. And John McCain heard that Jay Swans was military, former military, and air traffic controller. McCain was like, no, let him in there. And when you have these relationships, man, the elected officials listen. They listen. Bro, I was cool with so many office managers, man, and then I would come back to California and go find the office managers out there in California. And when campaigns rolled around, I'm cool with the campaign managers, bro. And NACA is just throwing money, hand over fist, trying to get this stuff, getting some of these things passed, these bills and these initiatives passed. So the air traffic controllers are out there doing their bit as best they can. They're out there definitely doing their bit. Yeah, it just has nothing to do with DEI. To be honest with you, bro, it has nothing to do with it. It's all about proper training and holding people accountable. And in my opinion, the FAA is not doing a really good job of that. That falls on management. And the FAA will point the finger at the union. We can't do anything because of the union. The unions point their finger right back at the FAA. Like, it's not our job to do your job. You made a mistake. Like, if you start making mistakes, we're not going to be able to get these people off. So it goes back and forth. Me and Jay Swans go back and forth all the time. He was like, bro, but for real though, man, like, this certain, that guy who did this thing should go. And I'm like, yeah, he should go, bro. But those supervisors over there are stupid and they did the paperwork wrong. So I'm going to be able to get them off. And he's like, but come on, bro. Right. And I get where he's coming from. In the perfect world, management and the union should work hand in hand. Right. Especially when it comes to safety. So hopefully some good will come of this. We'll see. Like, you'll be surprised with equipment, sis, outdated equipment. If you ever get a chance to go to like Van Nuys or even Burbank, if you ever get a chance to go up into the tower, if you know anybody over at Burbank, say, hey, can I come visit the tower? You go up there, when you see that equipment, it's going to blow your mind. The amount of duct tape that is used in the air traffic control system. I mean, because you really just need radios to work. The radios work pretty good, but there's a bunch of other stuff. There's so much equipment out there that we could have that would be great to have that some airports don't have. It's always going to be a case the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So if your airport is good and you guys are following the rules, you're not getting in a lot of trouble, you're not having separation errors, no one's going to be looking at you. So you don't need any new equipment. If there is any kind of new equipment out there that can help the controllers at DCA determine where the conflicts are going to be, they're going to buy that equipment and put it in DCA right away. But that's where all of the elected officials are anyway. So you know how that goes. Like there's so much equipment out there that the air traffic controllers could use, especially at these VFR towers, that there's no funding for it. The money goes elsewhere. And it's sad and it sucks. It sucks. And Carlos is saying his 1959 Comanche has a glass panel with traffic advisories and a full couple 3-axis autopilot with altitude. Bro, pre-select, man, look at him. He ladies, he bragging. He bragging right now, Bo, but hey, that's what's up, man. You put some money in your airplane, brother. You're like, I doubt that military H-60 even had ASDB in because they are exempt from the CFRs. That's a good point, man. Bro, you invested in that Comanche of yours, bro. God damn. Full couple 3-axis autopilot, bro, with altitude pre-select. Shit, that airplane's flying itself, homie. That's shout out to you, bro. That's what's up. But yeah, it's hard for the government to get that stuff. I'm not sure what the military guys are carrying, but all those helicopters, all the military aircraft are going to be compliant with FAA regulations. So I want to say they would have ADS-B. I want to say they would have that. Will they have it on? I don't know. Depends on what they're doing. But I could be wrong, bro, and I really don't know. I wish I could have a definitive answer for you. I might have to check in with some military types that I know they're still on the maintenance side in the military, and some contractor guys. I might be able to get an answer for you. So Sister Tia wants to know what happened in 1980. So all right, here's the deal. Like I said, this whole thing could be tracked back to the strike in the 80s. The air traffic controllers had a union, it was called PACO. PACO was tired of being overworked and underpaid. They wanted more money. They wanted to negotiate. The government wasn't budged, so they went on strike. And you guys know all about this. Type in air traffic controller strike, and you can read the story on yourself. Ronald Reagan was the president. Ronald Reagan gave an ultimatum. You guys go back to work by this date, and if you don't, you're fired. And that's what happened. He fired them. Air traffic controllers that went on strike, they got fired. I got hired in 1998. I got hired in with a couple guys who got fired during that strike in the 80s. All that time went by. Finally, Bill Clinton gets in the office and they passed some sort of bill to bring in air traffic controllers. And what they did was they got the guys who were still alive to get fired and got them back in. So I'm working at Van Nuys. I come in with a guy who got fired out of Van Nuys, and the guy who placed him, right, who crossed the line, the scab, was still working there. Bro, when I tell you, it was drama every day. Every day when we had to keep these two dudes apart. Every day. Now, the problem, Reagan fired the hell out of him, right? So the problem with that is the FAA never hired the controllers that they needed to replace the controllers that were lost doing that whole firing and all that kind of stuff, right? The FAA didn't begin to hire controllers en masse until around the 2010s. It takes a long time to make an air traffic controller. It takes a long time, right? Just to get through all the training and all that, depending on your experience level, at a place like Van Nuys, you could be in training for 2 to 5 years, which it should only take you a year and a half max, especially if you got experience. But they were doing this thing where we're just going to train everyone and we're just going to train to succeed. And no matter what, they want to be kinder and gentler. And they needed the numbers. Remember, NACA every year is going to DC. They're in the news cycles saying, hey, we need air traffic controllers. We need air traffic controllers, right? NACA was giving dates. On this date, Air traffic controllers are going to start retiring. They're going to be forced out. And at this point, bro, it was hard to get an air traffic controller to retire. It's the boomers and all that, bro. They didn't want to go nowhere. They wanted to keep working. They was trying to find ways to extend. Got these dudes out here 60-something years old trying to be air traffic controllers, man. I'm sorry, bro. Your mind ain't sharp enough. You got to go. You in your 60s, man, you got to go. Mandatory retirement is age 56. Mandatory, 56. So the FAA never replaced these controllers. So now we're at a point where you had a little overlap when you had experienced controllers, but someone like me, I was a new kid in 1998, and it was like a handful of us. Jay Swan, same thing. He got hired around the same time as me. We're like the new kids. We're coming in from the military. They got guys coming in from the Air Force, from the Marine Corps, from the Navy, right? You got all these controllers, and we got hired because we were air traffic controllers in the military. We didn't have to go to the academy or anything like that. The FAA has shut down their academy. And let me tell you about the academy back then. The academy was very, very difficult. They ran so many people through the academy. Now, the FAA knew this was back in the day before the PACO strike and all that. They knew that they were going to lose a significant amount of people in the training program at the academy. So they ran what they called a screen. It was called the screen. So you go through all of your classes, like you go through your basic tower stuff, you go through the sims, you do the book work, or, you go through whatever they got to teach you, right? You're going through all this stuff. And at the very end, you had to take this test, this screen. Bro, they had a washout rate for the screen. Bro, I want to say it was like 70, 80%, some crazy number like that. It was at least 60, 65%, but I want to say it was like 70, 80%. Right? 70% of the people who went through the program did not make it. And they were just running bodies. But for those who made it, they knew that these controllers, right, these cadets have a good chance of making it out in the real world because they made this screen really tough. But the problem is they stopped the screen. They stopped the mass hiring. They stopped all that. So after the strike, it's like, what's going on? NACA was born. Eventually, NACA would get the money that PACO was trying to get, got the money. Controllers are making all this bread. We got to do all these extra duties. But it was amazing. That's when I got hired in. I got hired in with this reclassification of pay. It was crazy. I came in, it was like, bro, I'm getting paid. We're getting pay raises like crazy. It was negotiated a certain way. And it just, wow. I go in, I'm like, I'm supposed to be making 55,000. It's like, bam, I'm already at 80,000. I'm still in training. Then you get through training or whatever, like 115,000. Like, holy crap, base. Then you get money on top of that. But the FAA's failure to get ahead of this problem has caught up with them. Bottom line, the FAA's failure has caught up with them. And like Jay Swan says, bro, it takes 1 to 5 years to become an air traffic controller from the academy to facility certified controller, depending on the facility. That's in the towers in the slower facilities. If you go someplace like a Tracon or an en route facility, yeah, you might be looking at 7, 8 years. If they want to train you that long, it just depends. And one of the big problems is you start training, you get to a point where you kind of certified on some positions so you can kind of work those positions. They'll have you working and not even training. They'll just keep you over there working. You're making all this money. But like, I got to keep training. I got to get through. I got to work all these other positions. The lack of leadership has caught up with the FAA. It used to be that the supervisors all had to be radar certified, which was tough. They all had to work tough radar facilities in order to be a supervisor. Now, was a lot of good old boy stuff going on with that. It was, it was a lot of craziness going on, but the best controllers got into management. So right up until the strike, the cream really rose to the top. Whenever some stupid rules come down, the supervisors would say, no, like, nah, we're not going to do that. We're going to do it this way. And the higher ups, again, they all had the same background. You didn't get any stupid orders coming down from the top after the strike. Those guys, those alpha type dudes and ladies, They got fired. So who rose to the top? All those sheep people, the quiet ones, the terrible controllers, they went straight to the top because the government needed bodies and the whole culture began to change. Now you got people making decisions that can't even control the airplanes. Imagine, let's say that you're a doctor, right? You're a foot doctor. You went through foot doctor school. You're doing your thing. But then John Hopkins hires you and they say, okay, show me how to use a scalpel to make this little bitty incision. You use a scalpel, you make that little bitty incision. Okay, great. You're now in charge of the brain surgeons. That's what happened with these guys who were running from the traffic, couldn't really handle complex stuff. These guys became the people in charge making policy. This is how you get a helicopter route that goes right across the final approach course into a busy airport with no restrictions. This is how that happens. Because back in the day, controllers are like, you out of your mind. We ain't doing that. That don't make any sense whatsoever. Or if you're going to do it, we need to change the altitudes. We need to build in some sort of separation. We need some sort of system separation here, just in case the controller screws up. None of that's there. None of that's there. So you had us, the baby gangsters, the baby air traffic controllers got in. We moved, we were doing our thing. I love working airplanes. I never wanted to be in management. I love working airplanes. I'm like, I'm going to do this job until I can't do it no more because I love it. So I never got into management. Jay Swan's got into management. Like, not necessarily because he had to. It was not because he wanted to, but it was one of those situations like, well, let me take over because these people don't know what they're doing. And it was an amazing manager. But they didn't want managers like him. They wanted yes men. They wanted people to just blindly follow and do whatever you say. And that's what the FAA is right now. Kinder, gentler FAA. And these controllers are out here thinking they're ready, and they're not. How do we know? We just did a whole video on how this guy wasn't ready. Right? So, I mean, it's just in the salaries, bro. And in 2000, look at this. Jay Swan's like, yeah, the economy in 2000 had a 70% pass rate. They completely flipped it. It went from 70% washout rate to 70% pass rate. Why they need the bodies? And they count, if you're an air traffic controller, they count you. Whether you work in airplanes or not, they count you because the elected officials are in them. The elected officials are on their butt like, hey, the union gave us this information. What's going on? You said we got enough air traffic controllers, but the union's saying we don't. And the manager's like, oh, no, this is the number of air traffic controllers that we have. Okay, how many of them are actually working airplanes? Oh, well, that's this number. That's the number the union gave you. They're right about that. So we need air traffic controllers. Like, yeah, we need air traffic controllers. And that's where they are right now. The salaries, bro, the base salaries for air traffic controller, bro, I mean, with differential pays and cost of living and all that kind of stuff, I would say that the median salary for air traffic control base pay is probably between 98 and 120,000. But because we're so short and there's so much overtime being worked, I mean, I know guys who are getting close to $300,000. They're working 40 hours of overtime a pay period. They're working 10-hour days. They're getting 2 hours of overtime 5 days a week. And then they get a 10-hour overtime shift in that week. They're working 1 day off, bro, 10-hour days. And they're getting 1 day off. And the reason they get that day off is because of the contract. It's by law. If the government could, they'd work those people 7 days a week. They work them 20 hours a day if they could. The max the air traffic controller could work in a day is hours in a day is 10 hours. The max he can work, he or she. So what I'm gonna do, brother Paul, man, I'm gonna find a well, you can probably look it up. You can look up I'm gonna find a pay scale for you. I'm gonna send it to you. I'm gonna find a pay scale for it. I'll send it to you on Instagram. Just give me a couple days on that. And then Jay Swan's is saying, yeah, like these once those guys will make it through the academy, they will lose another 15% in the field. But I'm telling you, the controllers that got through that knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. Yeah. Jay Swan started at 84K where he was. I started at 105 after all the pay changes where I was at. And again, that, you know, you got pay differentials in that cost of living and all that. We were in LA. I was in LA, man. He was up in NorCal. It costs to live out there, bro. So, bro, I'm here to tell you, man, it's crazy. So I'm gonna let Sagar and Crystal finish and then we'll wrap this up.
The big question mark is what are they going to do? Because what I would like to say is somebody needs to burn for this. Like, this isn't just we're throwing it to the pilot. If there is imprecise language that is not drilled into the heads of air traffic control, or if some guy is tired because he's been on for a double shift or something like that, we need to know every single thing about this, because now it looks like some 60 odd people are dead as a result of this accident. You know, we need to talk about this helicopter situation. It's true. There are Blackhawks are circling Washington literally all the time. For what reason? Why? You were supposed to be training. We're supposed to be doing training flights, which this apparently was right there across the airport. You know, go 2 miles down the other way. Look, again, easy. I'm a layman. I can only say this, but literally a customer of the airport. Have been landing there millions of times. Lots of other people in this area, and most importantly, the families of these people. They will need both answers, and every passenger. That's what Secretary Duffy said. That we all learned. Like, we don't have question marks when we fly in the United States.
Yeah.
It's a point of pride for our FAA, for our country, to see something like this, which is almost certainly some sort of horrible accident, tragedy. There has to be major reforms.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And look, Trump.
Air traffic control ran out of luck yesterday, and it cost all those lives. They ran out of luck. Now they're going to pick up the rock, and they're going to see all the creepy crawlers running around. You know, at the major airports, air traffic controllers right now are being worked the absolute max that they can work. They're getting work like that. If the only way an air traffic controller can get 2 consecutive days off, he's going to have to call in sick. And then you'll get in trouble for that. They'll say, oh, we're seeing the pattern of you calling in sick. Like, bro, I can't work today. Like, I'm taking today off. But they'll give you shit for it. At the big facilities, at Miami, at Atlanta, right? Probably here at DCA, right? At the Common Eye, LAX, Dallas, right? And these are just the towers. We're not even talking about the TRACONs. The big air traffic control facilities are overtasked right now. There are not enough air traffic controllers in the system. The government is fighting it like they always do, trying to protect their jobs, right? Air traffic has been lucky for all these years. It was just a matter of time. And now they're going to look at this. Now, what's going to happen? Don't know. Are they going to dump money into the FAA and switch up the training and all that kind of stuff? I don't know. Are they going to be able to find people who even want to take this job? This is a stressful job, bro. We're talking about the one time out of millions that it went horribly wrong. Bro, do you know how many close calls are out there? For every close call you see in the news, there's probably 1,000 close calls you didn't even make the news. It's you're threading the needle. It's a tough gig. It's a tough gig. But you definitely want to have your full complement of air traffic controllers, and you want them to be seasoned. You want experience, and the experience is gone.
Trump's been in office a week. I think it will be difficult. A lot of people are sharing, some of the moves that he's made. We can put the next piece up on the screen here from the Huffington Post. That he came in, he gutted a key aviation safety committee, fired the head of the TSA and Coast Guard. Obviously, we're going to try to get to a blog later in the show about this. People are calling it a buyout. It's not really a buyout, but they say that people can continue working from home until the fall if they promise to resign at that point. But
that has nothing to do with air traffic control. That has everything to do with some other stuff. They want everyone to come back into the office and work. It's a big mess. That has obviously you can't work air traffic control from your living room. Well, actually, there is technology out there that will allow people to work air traffic via computer simulations and VR. It's possible, but that's not how we get down in this country. Sister Tia, thank you so much for the $10 super sticker. Didn't even want to say nothing, just a super sticker. Thank you so much. I hope I was able to answer your question about what happened in 1980 and how that reflects on what's going on today. If you got any questions about that, sis, please just ask me. But I think you get it, right? I think everyone gets it. It's like Cody was saying, like, yeah, bro, that sounds like the job he used to work at. I think you kind of get it. It's like, bro, there's a gaping hole in this massive train. Like there's no more widgets on the assembly line. There's a big break. Can we fix it? Yes, but we're going to have to deal with this big break in the assembly line. We got to build more controllers. And once you build the controllers and they get through all that training and they make it to the end, they still got to get seasoned. And who's going to be there to season them? No one.
An effort to cull the federal government. Again, Trump's been in office for a week.
Right.
However, I do think that this will cast those attempts to strip the federal government down to bare bones in a different light, because it is a reminder that having sufficient personnel of high quality can be a matter of life and death. The air traffic controllers, we'll see whether they are to blame or not. That continues to be an open question. But the functions of the federal government really, really matter. One thing that may be quite relevant here is some of the Lever News outlet, David Sirota's outlet that we always appreciate their reporting, is out with this report. We can put this up on the screen. So months ago, before this collision, lawmakers brushed off warnings and boosted flights. So despite the fact that there had been mid-flight near misses, dire pleas, airline bankrolled lawmakers recently expanded flight traffic at Washington's busy airport. Apparently, they just added an additional number of flights to this airport. And both senators from Virginia and Maryland, so 4 senators total, voted against this as a protest, saying this airport is already too busy. It's already dangerous. There are already too many flights going in and out. You can't add 5 more flights to this airport. Everybody else voted for this bill. And, was this a contributing factor to this crash? Nobody knows at this point, but
absolutely. And I guarantee you the air traffic control union was out front saying, hey, man, maybe, because here's the thing. A lot of pay is based on how busy your facility is. If your facility gets busier, they up your level, your ATC level as you got like LAX, an ATC 12 facility. If DCA, let's say DCA is an ATC 8, it's a big pay increase to going from ATC 8 to ATC 9. So then the local union will be like, yo, let's get those flights in here. Everybody's going to get a pay raise. But bro, we're shorthanded already. You want to add more flights? We'll just make procedures so we'll be okay. Word? So y'all came up with this procedure that runs this helicopter right across final? Is that what you're talking about? Hey, well, we'll make sure we always have this position open. See, what happens in air traffic control is they'll realize that there's a problem and they'll try to make procedures as an out. Like, well, we'll make this procedure like, well, you can't use this particular route unless you have this particular position open, or you have this many people over here doing this and doing that, right? They do everything but address the fact that you got controllers who can't handle the volume, can't handle the complexity. That's the problem. I can run an infinite amount of airplanes if it's just, one every 3 miles. They're all landing on one runway and they're all departing on the other runway. And we can run that till the cows come home. That's easy. But when you have airplanes out there landing on intersecting runways and complex airspace, you got weather, you got helicopters and VFR airplanes out there. Those like the little airplanes just out there floating around doing everything. You got to sequence them in. The big airplanes have what they call wake turbulence issues. And wake turbulence is kind of like a boat. When a boat goes through the water and you see the wake coming off the boat, same thing happens in the air, man, with the when you're flying around in the sky. Those big airplanes, they create these tailwind vortices like wake that can flip an airplane over. The bigger the airplane, the more the wake. Right? And Brother Carlos will tell you about that. You don't want to get caught in somebody's wake. Remember Top Gun, the original Top Gun, Math and Goose got caught up in Iceman's wake flipped the airplane over and we lost goose. That's real. You get caught in someone's wake turbulence, bro, and if you ain't ready, it could be a problem. And if you're close to the ground, nice knowing you. And there's nothing air traffic control can do about it other than tell you about it. Right? You're sitting there flying around. Hey, tower, I want to transition through your airspace. Okay, fine. That's the 22 coconuts. Right? This is the tower. Transition approved. Air below 1,800. Traffic. 11 o'clock, 5 miles. Southbound. Boeing 747. 2,300 descending. Caution wake turbulence. That's all I can do for you, babe. I told you. I told you about that, big boy. And go and Google wake turbulence incidents or wake turbulence accident airplanes. Wake turbulence airplanes. Go ahead and Google that. Wake turbulence airplanes. Google it and see what you see. All right? See what you see. Brother Paul, appreciate it, man. Thank you, brother. First class job tonight. Thank you, brother. We need more thoughtful commentary from those who've done it. Too many talking heads who have no clue in making this political. Yeah, it's immoral, bro. You're right. And I will do my best, man. I see how much y'all like the ATC stuff. There's plenty of, bro, I'm going to start doing ATC stuff, man. I'm going to make a vow. I'm going to try to do at least 2 a month. We're going to start there. We're going to try to do at least 2 a month. Bro, there are some really good pilot channels out there where they run this stuff and I can just pull it up and show it to you guys and let you see. And we'll listen to this stuff and you'll begin to hear and begin to see the holes, right? Like, holy shit. Man, weren't we just talking about that on the last video? Hey, Saint, that thing about wake turbulence, man, I see what you mean. Like, yeah, that's what happened here. Man, hey, Saint, they didn't do a profit traffic call. Yeah, I told you, man, you got to be consistent, bro. You got to make these traffic calls. They say that was a factor in this thing. Yeah, and you'll see when these little airplanes are bumping into each other. It happens a lot. They survive a lot, too, the smaller airplanes. But dude, we're going to start doing that, man. Twice a month, I'm going to do some ATC stuff, man. We're going to cover some stuff just so you guys can see it. And Sister Tia wants to know how far away. Depends on the system, though. But once the computer determines that there's going to be an issue with it, and depending on what system you're using, I want to say from the pilot standpoint, I don't know. From the air traffic control standpoint, it could be 5 miles away, right? It could be 10 miles away when the radar starts alerting air traffic controllers that these two airplanes are going to get too close. It depends. Like the computer projects out the path and they'll say, oh, this is a problem. And they will alert the controller. And it's just a flashing icon. It's a red flash, and it could be terrain. Like the computer might think that, hey, your airplane is getting too close to terrain. So there's phraseology for that. It might be another airplane. I'm definitely going to continue doing this so you guys can see it. I didn't realize people would, I didn't think you guys would like this air traffic control stuff, man, to keep it 100. You keep it 100. I didn't think you would like this stuff. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you. I'm just shooting from the hip here. I could do better, guys. And I'm a wind this down, but me and my buddy Howie, we're talking about this. Shout out Howie. He's probably out there listening right now, laughing. That's his alias. Me and my buddy Howie were talking about this. And when we came up in air traffic control, let's say something happened, man, you have a close call. You have a close call, you go down, they're going to pull the tapes and listen to what you said and, look at the radar plots and see what happens, right? And let's say you go down, you had a close one. They pull you off position. You go down and you look at everything. It's like, nope, you did everything right. Right? Your phraseology was spot on. You made the perfect traffic call. Your phraseology was textbook. You didn't add any words. You didn't take any words away. You identified yourself like you're supposed to. We'll talk about this in the next video, like the way air traffic controllers are supposed to talk. And I'll give you examples of bad phraseology versus good phraseology. But bro, you had a close call, but man, you did it. You did it right. Good job. We had a supervisor who's no longer with us. God bless the dead. Our supervisor would say, okay, we're cool on that. We did good, but could we have done better? Shout out to Murph. One of my favorite guys in the whole wide world, man. I miss him. I love him. is part of my life forever. Murph was like, could we have done better? And me and Howie were talking about that. I'm like, damn, you're right, man. Murphy did push us. Could I have done better? And I took that, and Howie took that, and we trained that into the controllers that we trained. So they went out into the world and they do that. Yeah, I know you got away with that close call, but what could you have done to avoid this being closed? What could you have done better? And I think all Americans can learn a little something from that, learn a little something from Murph. Doesn't have to be just air traffic control. What could you have done better, Bo? Get into a screaming match out there, some road rage, and you got away, but you got away with it. But what could you have done better? Like, is it possible you could have avoided the whole thing? Right? What could you have done better? I'm gonna let Crystal say what she's got to say, and then we're gonna wrap this up. And Sister T, appreciate you. She's like, thank you. ATC doesn't get enough recognition every time I fly and land safely. It's a miracle. Hey, every time you drive and get to the grocery store safely, babe, that's a miracle. The way these people be driving. I'm down here in Central Florida. Lord have mercy. They don't know how to drive, girl. Ooh, I will fly on anything. I will fly anything before I got to drive around down here. I got a joke about it down here. Is so bad. I got a joke. I talk about it on stage. But anyway, let's finish up with what Crystal has to say, and then we'll wrap this up.
Certainly, potentially the case that the busyness, just the sheer number of flights in and out of this airspace, helped to create the dynamic that led to this horrific tragedy.
That's going to be one of the, actually was very supportive of those opening slots. But for people who want to know why they did that, it's because lawmakers don't want to drive. If you're not from DC, it won't make a lot of sense. But there's two airports here. There's Washington, DCA, which is like a 10-minute drive from the city. And then there's Washington Dulles, which is like an hour drive, maybe more with traffic. And the people who represent the state of California and a few others who want direct flights that they can get to from Congress open up these new slots because they want to be able to go home quicker, just so everybody understands what their motivation was for voting for that. You're absolutely right. And actually, one of the reasons, so I was supportive of that, but one of the problems was they didn't increase the number of air traffic control and some of the safety mechanisms that were at the airport. Now, I actually was not fully aware that provision had not been added or had been extended more fully. Now, obviously, we are. So like I said, somebody, when 60 some odd people are killed, clearly as a result of systemic, and even if it is pilot error, there are systemic things that have contributed to that. You need to have a full root to branch examination of all the problems that happened. It does appear that there have been people who have been warning about this now for years, about both congestion, about DCA specifically, from the new slots being added at the airport and all of that. And so we should listen to them. We should need to have actual hearings. This is one of the least, things that we should, it's one of those things where we really need to, for the families of those people who have so tragically lost their lives, like actually do them service, and also for our own country.
Yeah,
this is our nation's capital.
Right. Yeah. Well, and to avoid this happening again.
Right.
Because as of just a few months ago, air traffic control, they're short roughly 3,000 air traffic controllers nationwide. So there's been an ongoing shortage. So I certainly hope that no air traffic controllers are planning to take the buyout, because this is an area where we need more and highly qualified,
I think that's for
capable.
Work from home, not.
Yeah, the number is higher than that. No, they can't take the buyout, but what they will do is retire the first chance they get, or like in a case like tonight, I don't know how many controllers were in that tower. Let's say it was 5, maybe 7 controllers in that tower. There's a chance that none of them will come back to work. They can't continue. There is a mechanism out there like, bro, I can't mentally handle this anymore. And you will get a medical retirement. It can happen. Imagine that. DCA already short. And there is a scenario in which all the controllers who witnessed this horrific event, like, you know what? This ain't for me. Another thing too, you got all these millennials and these young guys and girls taking this job. You have some sharp kids. They made it through all of the training. did a great job. They're at the busy facilities. They're good at it. They're young. The FAA is like, yeah, man, we got this 23-year-old, 25-year-old, 27-year-old. Man, yeah, we good, bro. They're living with mom and dad still. There are guys out there who stacked up money, working all this overtime. They're living at home, buy themselves a nice little car, cash, still living at home, chilling, taking trips all over the world, right? Living that, Instagram life, stacking money. Work maybe 3, maybe 4 years, stack up about $500,000, $600,000. And then guess what they do? They quit. They resign. The FAA has never dealt with turnover, ever. You got managers who don't know how to manage, and now they're dealing with a problem like this. Wait, these controllers are going to work for 50 years. These controllers are going to work until they're age 56. Not these guys. Deuces. They'll go out, spend that $500,000, get their savings down to maybe 200 grand, and then they'll go off to Dubai somewhere and work for a private air traffic control company overseas. You're an FAA certified controller. Yeah, we'll hire you at $325,000 a year to come over here and work in Dubai and do a fraction of the work that you did while you was over in America. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. Right? So never recovered from the strike. The experience is all timing out. Even those controllers who want to stay, they can't. They're age 56, got to go. And then you have turnover. Something the FAA has never dealt with before. The FAA they're used to controllers that come in and work forever. You got to drag them out kicking and screaming. You got these kids that are like, nah, I'm good. Like, I'm good. I'm good. Definitely a perfect storm. Definitely a perfect storm of mismanagement. And you got people who aren't competent, and it's not going to get any better, sis. Someone's going to have to take over. They're going to have to look at this, and no one's going to want to throw money at this problem. So we'll see what happens. And this isn't something that can be fixed in 2 years or 4 years or 8 years. This is something they needed to do back in 1987, and they didn't do it. So you might be looking at a 12 to 15 year fix if you find the right controllers and if they stay. You got guys who are making it. These young men and women are making it. Like, man, these people are working me to death. I can't do nothing. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and resign. Just going to go ahead and resign. And then when I'm ready to come back to work, I can go work for the DOD. I can work here in America for a private air traffic control firm, or I can go overseas and work. They're not sweating it. These kids don't care. All brains and no balls, hilarious, but that's a fact. That's a fact. That's a fact, man. Yeah, ATC is extremely critical, bro. Man, we still have the best air traffic control system on the planet. It's just so much going on, and we'll get into that, guys. We'll get into that. So I'm done. I've taken enough of you guys' time. I'm glad you guys enjoyed that. Thank you so much for all the donations, guys. I really appreciate it. I am going to continue. Like I said, I made a vow at least twice a month. We're going to do ATC. And maybe we'll get it to where the 2 lives I do a week will be ATC stuff. And then I can do all the Manosphere stuff on my DL shorts, right? Just kind of make those and put them out there. But I didn't realize you guys like this so much, man. So definitely, please do pray for those families. And I definitely want to end with this. The controllers involved with this, especially the controllers whose voice we heard out there that looked up and saw that fireball, and he knew instantly that all those people were lost. Bro, there's a very high self-deletion rate in this business. I'm keeping it 100. I'm really worried about that controller. I don't know that, man, but I'm really worried. And I hope his family and friends are looking out for him, because this will push you to the bottle. This will push you to something worse than the bottle. This will have you acting out. I've dealt with, not at this level, but I've dealt with this before. And you can't sleep. And everywhere you look, it's on TV. It's in the newspapers. I made the LA Times back when the LA Times was still popping, y'all. Back in 1999, I made the LA Times. They had a special edition. Sitting there reading it. right? Bro, now they do offer help and all that, but this is definitely going to be a mental thing that's never going to leave these people. Those controllers who are up there watching it, man, it hit way harder than the way it hit us sitting in our living rooms watching it on TV. So definitely keep, thoughts, prayers out for those people. Man, I hope they don't come down too hard on this dude and the people that were up there. But again, it's part of it, man. It's part of it. And Dr. B, you're right, bro. It's definitely similar with y'all, bro. Get it wrong in that operating room, bro. Mess somebody up. You got a routine procedure for somebody, and all of a sudden they can't walk no more because you made a mistake or something. So definitely, please pray for those folks. If you pray, please keep those people in your thoughts. And do like Murph did, right? Let's take a book out of his book of tricks there and ask yourself, could I have done better? Right? I'm DL Saint. This is I Really Want to Know podcast, man. I really appreciate y'all. Thanks for rocking out with me. I will see y'all probably this weekend. I got to go out this weekend, so probably going to do a Lit Saint episode. Be ready for that. I'll talk to y'all then. God bless.